Welcome everybody. I'm Joy Vernon and I'm the organizer for the Greater Seattle Tarot Meetup. And I actually put this together, this handout, with 2 tips on it, and then added this third tip. I put it together last year for a class I was teaching when I realized, like literally the day before the class, that there were people in it that didn't know tarot. And it hadn't occurred to me that somebody that didn't know tarot would sign up for this kind of intermediate level class, which is okay because you don't have to know tarot to do a lot of the work that I do. You just have to be comfortable feeling intuitive with it, feeling like you can get information out of the cards. So I threw together a handout at the last minute and sent it out to everybody saying, if you don't know tarot, here's my best 5-minute, tips for learning tarot. And so but I liked it. I thought it was a pretty good handout. So I added my other like main way of teaching tarot in 5 minutes. I added that as a third tip and decided to create the whole thing for you guys. I have absolutely no problem with tarot books whatsoever. I am one of the voices that's like, don't read the book. But you've got to, when you're trying to communicate ideas, one of the best ways to do it is to come out strong on a position. And so I say, don't read the book. And it doesn't mean I don't think tarot books are any good. I do. There are some brilliant tarot books out there. And sometimes I can't tell what's going on in a card. Sometimes I can't see what an object is. Like in the hidden tarot of the hidden realm, there's a child in one card holding something orange. I thought it was a tangerine. I couldn't figure out why the heck he had a tangerine. And so I had to read the book for that, and turned out it was a dragon egg, and I hadn't been able to tell that. And so giving us it reminds artists to give us clues about what things are. But 2, I needed the book for that. I needed the book to tell me what that was. A lot of books, particularly sometimes a book that goes with the deck, I'm like, have you even looked at this card before you wrote this? Because this doesn't relate at all to what I'm seeing in this image. And sometimes just really generic books are all written basically about the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, and they're not addressing individualities of each deck. Okay, so this I call this Joy's Quickie Do-It-Yourself 5-minute guide to reading tarot. It's not hard to read tarot. It is very, very easy. And my teacher did give me a book. He gave me the Eden Gray guide, whatever her book is called. It's got a couple different titles with slightly different content, but it was Eden Gray's book is what he gave me. But he didn't really spend a lot of time telling me to read it or asking me what cards meant or anything like that. Other than that, he just had me learning to read the images on the cards, which is what I teach too, because I basically teach how my teacher taught me. And so the first and very easiest, and I've had people take entire advanced or intermediate level classes with me that are not about tarot. They're about something else usually, but it uses a lot of tarot. I've had people do entire classes, like ongoing courses, using just this one method and getting good results every time that are relevant to them, meaningful to them, easy for them to do, and fulfill the needs that they have in terms of doing readings with the cards. So this first technique here is always going to be your go-to. I've been teaching this one in this format since probably, I don't know, maybe for 10 years. No. Yeah. I don't know, 10 or 15 years. Everything's been 10 or 15 years. So I've been teaching it for a while. I developed it for there was this really big psychic fair that happened a couple times a year in Denver, and they had speakers. Uh, Lots of speakers and little workshops and stuff. I developed it. I'm pretty sure I developed it for a workshop for that organization, but I've done it other places as well. So the very first one is called the visual cue method of reading tarot. And the bottom line here is ask a question and choose a card. Let your eyes sweep over the image until one visual cue stands out for you. How does this visual cue answer your question? And so there's a step-by-step instructions. And the very first thing, of course, is like, oh my God, I have to ask a question. And so, and that is actually really important with tarot. And it's not important with psychic readings. And it's not important with, for instance, astrology, although it can be. But, I can tell you influences that are coming up without knowing what you want to know about. It doesn't matter. The influences will be there whether or not you're interested in them or not. And there's plenty of tarot readers that feel like they don't need a question, but they're probably using more of a psychic technique than they are actually reading the cards. And so this is actually one of the things that I love about tarot, because what happens with people that are psychic is that they walk past somebody in the grocery store, they get a hit, and psychics are taught to always relay the information that they receive. So you're standing in the grocery store and all of a sudden somebody turns to you and it's like blah, 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 because they just got this hit that they felt they needed to tell you. And assumedly, those hits only happen when the time is right, and the person really does need to know that, and they're grateful for the experience. Although it does, to me, it does bring up a little bit of a question of ethics in terms of doing a reading for somebody that didn't ask for it. Um, and um, and tarot doesn't do that, because tarot has this strict rule that says you have to have a question. So even if you sit down in front of me as if you want a reading, if you don't have a question, a lot of times I just had what did I have? Did I have a dream? I was thinking about this recently. I was thinking about a snowball, and how you take a little snowball and you roll it in the snow, and it accumulates more and more stuff as it goes along. Or I think I was thinking about a lint ball, and how you can roll like one of those woolen balls over something, and and pick up lint. And I when I thought of that, I saw this image of when you don't have a question. When you have a question, it's like the snowball. It gathers and it gets bigger, and it has something to hook onto. It's the starting snowball that gathers all the snow until you can make a snowman or whatever you're going to do. And if you don't have a question, you've got nothing to gather. It's like trying to like roll your hands in the snow without packing them together. And so the question is the seed. It's the grain of sand in the oyster that causes that pearl to form. It's that snowball around which the larger block of snow or snowman snow, I guess that's still a snowball, it's just a big one. The bigger snowball grows. So having a question is really important in tarot. And so this handout actually includes 15 tarot questions to ask when you don't have a question, because that's what happens when you're trying to learn, is that you start off with a gazillion questions, but after about a week or so of trying to learn, you're kind of like, oh, I don't have any questions left, and I just want to know this other thing that I felt like I never got a good answer to. So I have here sets of about 5 different types of questions, and then about 5 examples under each one. And so so that can get you started. So your bottom line here is asking this question, and I suggest here, how will learning to read tarot benefit me? And that, especially for those that are new to this, that's a great question to ask. And if you're more seasoned, you probably know how to come up with a good question. Mix the cards up, and you can shuffle them any way that's comfortable for me. I was thinking my next phrase was, for me, I like to do this. I like to do the riffle shuffle. It's definitely not recommended in that you can bend a corner of the card. And when decks are very rare and hard to come by, that is a very serious problem. Plus, that's like a tip off as to what card is turning up in a spread. But and it can catch your finger when you're trying to cut the deck. A broken corner, your finger feels like the deviation at that point, and you'll start cutting to that card all the time. So those are reasons not to do it. But when tarot decks are everywhere to be had for a low price, it's easy to just riffle shuffle them and make sure they're really truly randomized. Another way to shuffle cards, of course, is the overhand shuffle. And there's lots of really good video tutorials online from professional card players and card trick masters that teach you different ways to shuffle. And I learned that doing the overhand shuffle, you actually use your thumb to pull down 2 to 3 cards. It's not just one, it's always 2 to 3 at a time. And you have to hold the deck kind of loosely so that they move. And once the cards get really worn, this doesn't work very well, but this deck's fairly new still. And so that's called the overhand shuffle, and you can get going pretty fast with that. So mix the cards up, and of course you can wash the deck just mixing the cards up face down on the table. You can deal them into piles. There are lots of ways of mixing up your cards. Then cut the deck and select the top card, or you can fan it out. Choose any way you want to. There's no right way or wrong way. These are suggestions if you're like, I'm really lost, I'm not sure what the right way is. There is no right way. Just get a card, grab a card, somehow obtain a card. Some people shuffle till one falls out. I don't. I feel just like I'm in a chaotic place when my cards start popping out. And so I like to be focused, and I'm holding it up on my hand. I actually do this a lot because I do my reading sitting on the couch, and so I don't have a good surface. So I just put my deck on my right hand and cut with my left. You don't have to do it that way. Does not matter. And then I'll just take the top card. And so, oh, nice, good. So then just look closely at the card. With a curious mind, contemplate the image you see, notice the details, let your mind wander across the card until one particular detail catches your eye. What is it? Why does it stand out to you? What purpose does it serve in the image? What personal meaning does this visual detail have for you? And so just let your mind wander, see what you see, and think about how that one detail fits into the card. Hold the visual cue in your mind at the same time as you think about your question. And this is another huge key, is to combine these two things. You've got a cue in the card, and I sometimes call it a cue and sometimes a clue. I think they're both really good words for this. And you have a question. Think about those things together and see what happens when you use that to answer the question. And that's a final step. How does that visual cue answer your question? Who's done the exercise and wants to share what they got?
Oh, I have a easy one. I'm using another deck, but I have this Ace of Cups. I don't know if you can see it. And my question is, I just discovered some days ago with my North Node in Gemini that I have to improve listening. And I don't know, and I see the heart here, and I see those two hands keeping the cup. So I just think, okay, I have to listen with the heart.
Ah, beautiful. I love it. I love it. Very, very nice. Chris, you got your hand up.
Yeah, hi Joyce. So a little background. I just applied for a job with this company last week, and I was submitted for the role. But it's almost a week, and I haven't heard back. So I just asked my tarot, my spirit guides, if they're gonna move to the next step with me. Okay, so for this card right here, the one that I just showed you, so
Mm-hmm.
I see a bunch of animals in the background,
Nice.
um, and I also see the 8 rods just coming out from the sky,
Okay.
and it looks like they're beaming and glittering.
Okay.
So to me, that means hope.
Yeah. Good.
And there's also a sun in the middle. So yeah, that's really positive sign.
Yeah.
Like the path is lit for me.
The path is lit. Perfect.
Yeah.
I love that. That's brilliant. Yeah, that's exactly what I like to get from a card. The path is lit before me. I mean, that's very, and somebody's giving you a thumbs up too. That's just a very nice simple interpretation. It totally works very well, and somebody's giving you a heart now. It works very well with the image. It really, I think, it has a very positive answer towards your question. So yeah, that's really nice, really nice. Okay, so I am going to spare my screen with the handout, and we're going to go on to number 2. By the way, most of these are not anything that like these are my thing that I discovered. None of this is like that. These are things that everybody does, that all tarot readers do. It's very, very natural to do them. So it's not even like anybody can ever claim to have invented these. This is just really natural things that once you've worked with the cards for a while, then you notice that you're doing it. But if you haven't started working with the cards, it's much harder to know where to start. And so all I'm doing is saying, hey, this is some of the things that I do when I have to work fast. So exercise 2 is the compare and contrast method of reading tarot. Bottom line, ask a question. This time you're going to pull 2 cards. This time you're going to note the similarities and differences between the cards. What is the most striking similarity? How does that address your question? What is the most striking difference? How does that address your question? And it's really useful to notice what's the same about the cards and how it addresses your question. And then what is the most striking difference? And again, how does it address your question? When you've got those 2 things, the similarities tell me this, but the differences tell me this, that's when you'll really be able to put it all together and get an answer. You can always do what should I focus on today as a question, mix your cards up. I like to do and pull 2 cards any way that works for you. Absolutely any way you like to pull cards will be effective for this. I tend to pull the top and bottom card. Examine, of course, and contemplate the 2 cards. That's always the example. That's always the instruction every time you ever do a reading ever for the rest of your life. Note the similarities and differences between them in this case. Observe details that pop out at you. Feel the general emotional mood of the cards. Compare and contrast the characters, the actions, the directions, the environments, details, colors, shapes, moods, anything that catches your eye. pick at least one similarity and one difference that stand out the most to you. I shouldn't even say at least, just pick one similarity, one difference, and use that to apply to your question and find an answer. So I'm going to stop sharing. Who's got one ready to go?
I've got the wise one, which is equivalent to the Hierophants. Yeah, 3 people round a fire.
Okay.
And then I've got the 2 of Swords, and this one, she's holding a mask on each side, trying to decide.
Nice.
So similar, the similarities is, I know she hasn't got a face on her actual head at the moment, but it's representing 3, and then here is representing 3.
Oh, good.
So, yeah. And then what's completely different about them is they're obviously all cozy up around this fire, like sharing, whereas she's on her own out in the cold.
I love it. Okay, good. Now, if you can, if you don't mind sharing, apply that to your question and see what you get.
It's about, like, about what, progressing about today. This is going to sound really weird. I can't decide what to do for tea.
So it's quite literal.
Yeah. So obviously the fire represents the cooking, and she's trying to make a decision. So yeah, I don't know if that makes sense to anybody.
Oh man, I can spend hours trying to decide what to make for dinner.
So yeah, that's yeah, I'm in a bit of a quandary at the moment. So yeah, that's what I think it is about at the moment.
Okay, and so yeah, that sounds good, and it sounds like you're on your way to some good clarity with that. Keep in mind your similarity was 3.
Yeah.
So 3 is an answer to your question, and your difference was that cozy together versus alone. And
yeah,
so that might have to do with that choice as well, that having to choose.
yeah, yeah. So my son's gone to a football match and he still hasn't come home yet. So
interesting.
Yeah, so whether I'm going to eat with him or not. So
okay, excellent.
Yeah.
Oh, very
good. Yeah.
What time is it there? What do you have to cook him dinner? Or are you trying to decide whether or not?
No. He might order a takeaway, and I might be cheeky, and he might pay for mine. So at the moment, it's 6:45 in the UK in the evening. So yeah.
Okay, yeah, I was trying to decide if it was dinner time. I'm like, wait, is the question, is he going to come home with takeout before you get too hungry?
Yeah, so might be. So fingers crossed he'll sort it out for me.
Okay, cool. Jane.
Okay, well, I picked, my question was, I've got a dog that's quite sick at the moment, and he's been very sick in the past. So I was asking if he would get better soon, or if he is actually more seriously ill again. And so I picked these 2 cards. One is the 5 of Cups. Let me see if you can see this okay.
Yeah.
And then the the 9 of Pentacles.
Okay, good.
Let's pick them this way. The 5 first, and then the 9.
Okay, good.
So I kind of looked at them, and they're both, the only thing I can see vaguely is that they're alone. In the 5 of Cups, the sky is darker. It feels like sadness, alone, water, and there's a ruin in the distance. It looks like a man to me. I don't know though. Head is covered, and there's trousers. And then the other one is just completely opposite. It's an open stance rather than head down. The head is up and the arms are open. Joyful. There's animals as well. Sunny sky and earth, an airy feeling with that bird. And there's a town in the distance, and it's a woman with a skirt, and she's less dressed. And the only similarities I can find are two green trees in the background, like. So I don't know. Can anyone else see any similarities in these two? Apart from they're both human. I mean,
Yeah, you said both had just one figure, which I do think is relevant. And I think a tree is a fine similarity to find. Did you try applying that? What does a tree, well, let me start with this. What does a tree represent to you?
well, something that's living, hopefully. I mean, at least when they're green, they're living.
Yeah. And what else can it be?
Well, it can be more growth,
Yeah. Growing, living. Yeah.
maybe stability, foundation, if we look at the roots of the tree.
Yeah, absolutely. I like any of those. Do you, and then we saw plenty of opposites to work with.
Yes.
When you think of your question, is the idea of living or growing or stability, roots, do any of those things feel like they answer that question?
Yeah, I suppose they could. It means that he's probably not going to be more seriously ill and not make it. He's probably going to get better, hopefully.
There you go. And so then with the differences, we went from the dark card to the bright card. What does that tell you?
Things are going to get better. Yeah, that's nice. Yeah.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah,
And the
really
trees
nice.
are oxygen as well, aren't they? I mean, trees give us oxygen and air, fresh air.
There you
So,
go. That's nice. And that might be a question of when you might notice when he starts wanting to sit in the sun or perks his head up a little bit, perks his ears just a little bit when you open the door and he smells the fresh air. I don't know what the weather's like there, but my cat
now
gets
it's 8 o'clock at night, so it's dark.
but yeah, maybe tomorrow or like that might be something to watch for just to see when he starts kind of perking up around fresh air or sunlight even and that might be a clue that he's on the mend perhaps.
I guess it could also be that right now, I mean, I don't know if you can see him, he's actually lying on the bed. He's not very happy at all.
Aw.
And he's by himself and he's just like keeping his own counsel, as it were. Whereas maybe when he gets a bit better, he'll start looking for me.
Yeah.
Because I associate myself with the 9 of Pentacles. So maybe that's
Yeah, because she's looking right at that bird and the bird's looking at her, right?
yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
Or
Awesome.
maybe go out hunting and bring me back a bird.
There you go. That could be too. Okay, cool. I'm going to go ahead and take us on to the next exercise. I love all three of these exercises. This one is my absolute go-to that if you don't want to take a tarot class, if you don't want to read a book, if you just want to read cards, this is actually the best way to teach yourself tarot. Just do this one exercise every day or as often as you can. And you will learn your deck using this exercise. I think it is far, in my opinion, in my not very humble opinion, this exercise is far superior to doing drawing a card a day. And that and that William is an example of in order to try to make a point, I have to go to an extreme, such as saying never look at another tarot book again. If you do this every day, you will learn. It's true, you will learn your deck. That's true without question. But in my opinion, it's far superior to the practice of pulling a card every day. So here, exercise 3 is tell stories about your life. And the bottom line is don't do readings. And I know that's hard to say to somebody that just got their first tarot deck. They're like, but I got it so I could get answers to my questions. And you're welcome to do the readings, but this exercise is the one that'll really help you learn the cards. Instead, use the cards to tell stories. So think of something that happened yesterday, or if you're doing this at night, at the end of the day, you can do something that happened earlier today, and use 3 to 5 cards to describe it. So here's the step-by-step instructions. Pick a significant happening, as significant as can happen on an ordinary day. Maybe your cat got out. Maybe you had a piano lesson but hadn't practiced. Maybe you cooked dinner from scratch or bumped into an old friend or an old enemy. Maybe you just found a great deal on something. I mean, it doesn't have to be huge. It can just be the kind of thing that happens. And I always tell people this is a kind of story you tell at the dinner table until I discovered that most people don't have dinner, they don't tell stories, they don't do it got to the point where people in my class would look at me blankly when I said it's like a story you'd tell at the dinner table, and they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. So but if you do remember those good old days, it's like a story you tell at the dinner table. It's just like, oh my God, you would not believe what happened today, that kind of story. And so write down what happened. This is the best way to do this exercise, is to write down what happened in just a few sentences, just short sentences, keep to the point. That's your story. Break that story up into 3 to 5 key events. And we're just going to do 3 for today to keep it simple. So think of 3 key events. What happened in the beginning, then what happened in the middle, what happened in the end, what was the result. Depending on how you write, one sentence might have a couple or even all 3 key events. Maybe each sentence ends up being a key event for you. But try to break it up into like 3 to 5 plot points, so to speak. And then you're going to look through your deck, looking at the images, and choose a card that best matches or reminds you of each of those key events. And I'm going to stop sharing and give you a chance to do that one.
I'm happy to share,
Okay, cool.
but it's a very boring event.
That's awesome. I love boring. The boring is better.
It's about something that I did today. I want to get the flooring in my lounge redone. And I've been putting it off I live by myself, and so I kind of make all the decisions, and I've been putting it off, and oh God, what about this? What about that? So I kind of went down today. I thought, right, today's the day, you're going to get this sorted. You want to have it done. So the first card, and I looked through the deck to see what appealed to me. The first card I pulled was the 2 of Wands, which basically gave me strength and says to me, you're going to do this. You might get a fumbling assistant, because I tried a few weeks ago and it was dreadful. But I went out with determination that no matter what, I was going to bring my strength into getting this sorted. The second card I pulled was the Ace of Swords. And for me, that represents the assistant that I got. She was amazing. She was just absolutely amazing. I asked 101 questions. She answered some of them even before I asked them. She was just very, very accommodating. And she even did up a worst case scenario excuse me, quote. I mean, the guy is coming out next Saturday to measure up properly. I gave her estimates. And for that final card, I chose the Ace of Pentacles, because the price that she quoted me was slightly under what my expectations were. And the price might even go down because she gave me worst case scenario. So I feel 3 very strong cards really represent my looking for a wood flooring today.
I love it. That's a really good example. And this gives me a good moment to talk about part of the reason I like this exercise, because the idea of the Ace of Swords being somebody that can give you answers. She gave me answers. Answer after every question I asked, she had an answer for. It's just like, what a great interpretation of that card. And I don't know that you will ever read that in a book anywhere, but that was your experience. And
Yeah.
when you look through the whole deck and you're like, what card shows me somebody giving me clear answers to the questions I asked? Boom, the Ace of Swords came up. And I definitely use it to represent clarity. But to think of that card when it comes up now for readings as this is your answer. Somebody is going to give you an answer. This is going to be a clear answer. It's like, boom, that is a wonderful interpretation of that card.
And I want to tell my story. I had a story this morning, and I went through the whole deck, and I'm using a deck that is so strange to me, I don't know what to do with it. So it's called, because it does exactly what you said, it's called Dame Fortune's Will Tarot.
Oh, nice. I love it. Yeah.
Okay, Dame Fortune's Wheel is the thing, right? But it's kind of, I thought it was going to be Wade Smith, but it's not at all. All right, so anyway, this morning I decided that I would go and get the family bagels. So here I am on the night of bagels, off to get those bagels.
Awesome.
And as I go to get those bagels, of course, I'm standing there and think, well, maybe I should get myself a cup of coffee too. So here I am, I get my cup of coffee, and I'm walking over to put on to fill that coffee cup and to put my thing on it, so that I have to get my own coffee. So when I put my cup underneath the thing and pull down the little lever for the coffee to come out, all hell breaks loose. Coffee's flying all over the place, and it's just a mess. So then I had to go and clean it up,
Oh.
which was good for me. And when I came to my wife, she was very happy that I had gotten the bagels and she had made me coffee herself. So it was great. So there's my story for the day.
I love it. Brilliant. Very good. And yeah, and this is again, and I think this brings me back to some of the points that I had gotten myself off track from. Just like the star card as cleaning up a mess. I love it because waters washes away things, and symbolically and archetypally and allegorically, that water could be washing away all kinds of things. But just when you start with that card as this was me cleaning up spilled coffee, then as that card starts to come up in readings for you, you've got a real live personal experience that you associate with that card and that meant something for you. And you can think, well, you get the star card in a reading and you're like, what does this mean? What is this about? Well, one of the times I used it to talk about cleaning up coffee. Am I washing away something right now? You know, and you start to find answers that are really much more deeply personal than anything you're ever going to read in a book. So yeah, absolutely. Love it, love it, love it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, you're welcome. Bye. Bye. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Loved it.
Okay, cool. Thanks, everybody.